Good morning. Thanks for the nice announcement and also for this nice talk we just had. I hope most of you listened because it's important. I'm Patrick. We make podcasts in me and my team. So we often have questions. We want to tell big stories, but they should tell something about the world we live in. And we also wonder, who are we as small radical media cell in that what we call a public? And in the next few minutes, I want to think about it with you and tell a story that's an invitation to think about how society is changing, also keeping in mind that what we call influencing. And the privilege of someone who does journalism and podcasting is that I can come into the office in the morning and have toothpaste on my shirt. So speaking publicly like this here is not part of my contract. So I'm a bit nervous, but I want to start with a happy birthday to the influencer, to all the influencers as a concept, because they turn 18 this year. 27 was the first mention of this kind of concept. So faces that advertise products in social media. We all know that from our own lives. When you turn 18, suddenly there's more responsibility and the focus turns on what you're doing. And I think we should do the same to influencers as personas, because suddenly they are not just revolutionizing advertisement, what they did in the last decades, but also international politics. And in Germany, at least for the generation of my parents, there's just one influencer they could name, and that's Rezo. Especially because he, as someone typically apolitical, made a video that was called Destruction of CDU, one of the bigger parties in Germany. And then they were wondering, what is an influencer? Well, I'm an influencer. Those papers are influencers because we influence the opinion of people. Yeah, so we are influencers because we influence people. And I think this definition clearly shows that it's not helpful. Because by that definition, pretty much everything can be an influencer. And also Katja said influencers are a very special social figure or social figures that are just possible in the technology and the society as we have it now. The papers from the 40s, from the 50s, they remain in that time and with those technologies of that time. And influencers are in the environment of the now and would only work now. But it's not an accident that someone who is an internet star like Rezo, he grew into it, that he does not analyze his own social role that clearly. I believe that influencers, or a better definition for them, would be that it's people who use their I, their me, their authenticity to build a network, a reach, and use that to market things for a cultivated online audience. And so influences like that are only thinkable in the technology as we have it now. Just YouTube and Instagram that just came up 10 years ago with their algorithms, they made influencers possible and enabled their rise. Facebook didn't have that in the beginning, because in the beginning on Facebook we wanted to show our friends that we are smart people and have interesting lives, but not to anyone, but just our friends. And only that change enabled influences. So influences stand for a change of the internet some 10 years ago, but also a new way of interaction. Some 6 years ago, just 6 years ago, I was on this stage, and with a friend I had a talk about how right-wing or extremely right-wing influencers work by using mimicry on the same methods. And what we already showed 6 years ago, I want to show it again. So this hot potato on the starch that's on your skin, I don't like that. I don't like potatoes. I had a talk about an anthroposoph who said that potatoes are not great for Middle Europeans. It comes from foreign countries. And end of video. I really like this video because it's incredibly stupid, and it's an extreme right-wing guy that most of you will know by now. But it shows how they took the same strategies. Well, influencers do cooking videos, and I'll just do that, cooking a potato and introducing my racism badly. And I think this topic followed us over the last years. With extremely right-wing Austrians making potato salad in their kitchen are our smallest problem. This is the picture of the second Trump cabinet of the United States, or those who were nominating back then. And this cabinet can be described as influencers because most of the people on this picture and those behind them are influencers because, and it's no coincidence that their battle cry on the day of the election of Trump, "We are the media now." It's an old battle cry of the counter culture. So Robert F. Kennedy, many of you probably know him. He already was at Corona protests in Berlin. He had a talk. He wanted to get president. That didn't work. Now he's Minister of Health. And he was a real influencer, or is a real influencer on TikTok. And it's nice videos like this one.
This much, all of the ideal stocking stuff, when I'm on the road, I try to use it as often as I can because it keeps up my hand-eye coordination and it gives me a workout.
Well, other influencers also made this kind of video and advertised this product. A million views in a very short amount of time. It was deleted now, but it was re-uploaded by the company, so it's still available online. This man is the Minister of Health of the United States of America. Next to him, there is Kash Patel. He's the boss of the most important police department of the US, the FBI. He was already part of the first Trump administration. Then he dropped out. And his claim to fame was as a Trump supporter, and he tried to turn that into social media fame and that into products he can sell. Here we can see it in a video where he's advertising his T-shirts, but he has his own fashion brand, a skull with Trump hair. Sometimes he has a scarf on with a sign, or hoodies. I think they cost $80, and socks as well. And the money for that beautiful fashion brand goes into the Kash Foundation, named like that because it's probably just his own coffers. But you can also buy wine, a box of this for I think some $80. Kash Patel tried everything to become an influencer, to advertise his own brand, but somehow also the MAGA brand and Donald Trump. He wrote a book, The Plot Against the King. It's a children's book, and the plot is that the traitor, Donald, becomes king. He becomes elected as king, and dark forces try to keep him from that by making false allegations. But it turns out that a evil witch is behind it all. Her name is Hillary Clinton. And the story has a happy ending because Kash, the wizard, he enters the stage and helps out the traitor Trump. So he may become king. And there's a second and third book, The Return of the King. And Patel nowadays is the boss of the FBI. And his vice leader is this man who had a big podcast before, just like many podcasts are part of this cabinet, which makes sense because it combines different media, Instagram with shorts and short interactions, and podcasts as a longer and deeper connection medium. So a lot of politicians and their speakers don't talk to media, but they are media themselves. And what that means is that the in-between is getting lost, because media is supposed to be something in between. So now there was a public, a politic, and in this audience, in this public audience, the politicians could put their ideas in there, and civic actors are part of this audience. And somehow there is a struggle to get an agreement in what world we want to live. But the in-between is getting lost because politics becomes the media. So personal politics is now a tactics for media. And we can see that in this Trump cabinet very clearly, because they are selected for their reach. How far can they bring their ideas? But it also means that those people that don't follow those seen media, it becomes a one versus them more and more. So public and audience, what was called a discussion space, it was never perfect. Some years long ago, it was already just old white men discussing things, but it was a different kind of public. Different narratives and different ideas were at the center. But this kind of new public is not a community anymore, but a target audience that is to be mobilized by politicians, and that's what they call media. So a political position becomes just aware to be bought, or the other way around. We don't know anymore. It also shows at Pete Hegseth, the defense minister of the United States, and he made a nice video just 1 year ago. And so on. Hegseth had a career as a Fox anchor, and on his Instagram channels, he advertises for the brand One Man Army. And they have a brand, napalm, and a grenade soap. So he's an influencer, obviously. He has followers. He creates his own brand. He tries to monetize. He translates constantly economical potential into financial gain, into political gain, and so on, and in all directions. So napalm and grenade soap, he sells it with the argument that it's American and it's anti-woke. And of course, that's the same kind of advertisement he does for his political stances. And it's political stances as as something to be bought. And what I really like, Stephen Gross, the American psychoanalyst. So in the first term of Trump is similar to wrestling. And I don't know if you ever seen one, because you sit there and you are with one of the fighters, and if he's hit, we are hit, and if he succeeds, then we are happy, and everyone's happy, but also everyone shrinks back if it's aggressive. But everyone knows that's just a lie. It's an inscenation. So it's all a play, but still we are in the moment with them, and we agreed that it's the emotionally better story to believe in this choreography. And if we don't believe in it, we don't have to watch a wrestling match. And I think exactly that way this political communication works, but also the economical. Because if I can sell a soap with saying our group is anti-woke and you need to buy this soap as a sign, as a protest against the others, this is part of the fight. So it's no surprise that all those people that I showed you, they use this way of communication, and they are not the only ones. They are not outliers either. They are just symbols of the times they're in. They are profiting of the whole societal process that I'll try to understand together with you.
Donald Trump himself already understood, I think.
Knowing nothing about the influences, I said, who is the biggest of all the influences? Sir, that's the easiest question you've ever asked me. Who is it? You, sir.
That's true.
I said
Wow.
you.
Wow.
Wow. Donald Trump at a comedy podcast is saying, who's the biggest influencer? It's me. And this time, I don't think that's his ego. I think it's true. At least in this administration, he's the biggest influencer. He has the highest influence, the highest following, and translated that into political power and economic power by selling his followers meme coins that are worth nothing, or a golden Bible, or a Donald Trump picture book. So in that sense, he's also an influencer. So what does that mean? On the one hand, we have a public who no longer works after the principle who has the best argument, and where reality, or it's a version where reality always beats facts. And all those men we like to laugh about, they're not freaks. They're symptoms of this changed public that works like every other market. And the idea that publicity is just a market, men didn't invent that. It was invented by a young man a few years ago like him, when social media was cool, even on Republica in 2010. Mark Zuckerberg was made Person of the Year by Time magazine. And in the title story, he was asked, which principle that you used to build Facebook? And he said, I think the best will beat all the others. The best book, the best film, the best stuff spreads. I think he's right. This is how these platforms work. And in an even more honest moment, in an internal memo to developers at the same time, he said, well, it was about building the Facebook news feed, and he wrote a mail to his developers saying, a squirrel that dies in your backyard can be more interesting than people dying in Africa. That's exactly the principle. Reality beats all. And this is how social media are built. And the prototype social media, like Katja said, is the influencer as a social figure, an ideal of how this world works. And when politics is working like that, we've reached it. So I like this term by Sophie Bishop, who's a social scientist in the USA, and she called it the influencer creep. And she said that about artists. She interviewed artists like scientists do, and they became influencers more and more. And I think anyone who's into the art market can relate and test this thesis. And if it applies, the idea of self-optimization, self-selling, self-marketing is becoming the norm more and more, and all the others, like even if you're not on social media, you still behave like an influencer because it's sort of this ideal. So it's not surprising that real influencers in Europe, Nicho Kayan, for example, Fidiash, that's a YouTuber from Cyprus, and he's doing the regular clickbait stuff. A lot is in English. Like, he goes to Japan on a shoestring, and the video he got big with is this.
Elon Musk is your idol as well, right? So do you think I will hug Elon in the end of the video?
Honestly, no.
So his goal is hugging the like most famous person in the world. He gets up to Mr. Beast, but will he ever hug Elon Musk a few days later? You know it. And yeah, in the end, what nobody thought was possible happened.
Oh my God, thank you guys for watching. I love you. Goodbye. We did it.
So very moving. And after celebrating such a big success, what is next? Fipiash says in 2024, I want to go to the European Parliament. And on the day of election, he's actually the one person who got the most individual votes from Cyprus. Elon Musk congratulates him. And now he's sitting in the European Parliament for Cyprus, and you can look up what he's voting for. Recently, he was against a petition to condemn Russia, and a few days later he posted this picture on Instagram with the Duma president. But he's very well known for this.
EU, and let's ask the people if they want here. And 80% of the people voted that they don't want here. 300,000 people.
So what he's doing on his Instagram is asking, how should I vote? He asked, should I join a party? His influencers, his followers said no. And so on. And of course, this creates a perfect answer to the representation crisis many of us are perceiving, the feeling that we can't really, we don't have a say. And along with many other influencers, there's another influencer among the in the European Parliament from Spain. There's, also Slavic from the Ostboys, which used to be a funny YouTube channel. And yeah, his followers called his party the Young Party. Now it's the Young Party. And what they have in common, like this is a Spanish influencer who has 3 people in the European Parliament, with and who did that by his media presence, is what they have in common is this type of letting followers decide. This right here, those are elevator buttons. There's like 4 buttons who open and close the doors. I don't even know what they mean. And Jilek said those buttons never work. They don't have any other function than supporting us in these nervous moments, and that they're just basically a fidget tool for us. And I think this is what the voting on by these influencers is. They pretend to make the process democratic, but really it has no effect. And I think it's one example of many. The regression is dressed progressive. So if these people pretend they're progressive. And what they really want and do is pure regression. And this disguise, we know it from politics, in social media. This is what Zuckerberg and co. have been doing for decades to disguise their capitalist project as a liberation project. And the key to understanding this and also to counteract this is enlightenment, like to see it and name it. One of the first people who said Hungary is a mafia state said, well, you can say the elephant is not flying or it's not swimming, but you haven't said anything about the elephant. And I think we're in a similar situation in our society. We don't have the words for what is happening out there. And we're basically in a double whammy crisis. Everyone is saying crisis, 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 but what characterizes this crisis is that it's not just a climate crisis, a military crisis, an economic crisis, all that, but we as a society have to talk about the crisis. And even under normal circumstances of a functioning public, this would be a challenge. But with the public we have right now, it's almost impossible. And that is what defines this double whammy character of the crisis. And something that reassures me is a thought by Antonio Gramsci, that's a theoreticist who was imprisoned by the fascists in the 20th century. And Gramsci was about one question: how do political regimes gain legitimacy? Well, so there has to be a system that creates legitimacy through culture, for example. And in the 20s of the last century, we saw how legitimacy crashed in Europe and new legitimacy was created with 2 world wars. And Gramsci said or wrote, the old world is dying, the new world can't be born yet. And this is the phase we're in right now, where the old patterns and systems of legitimacy are no longer working. And that is making us crazy. And that's why we're all so upset. And I think there's an opportunity in that, because it means that something new is coming. And a time where the old has died and the new can't be born is a time of monsters. And all those people, Trump and all the others I've shown, there would be countless more examples. They're monsters. They're symptoms of the time we're living in. But there's something you can do to fight against these monsters, to dance with the monsters. And maybe beyond that, we can achieve a better society, better media systems, a better public by fighting the monsters we have right now, and we could be able to succeed.